Hello, and thank you for joining us for another episode of the SEO Mindset, where your hosts are myself, Tazmin, and my dear friend Sarah McDowell. New episodes go out every Thursday, and this week I was joined by Veruska Anconitano. She is a global growth and international expansion consultant, and she's been doing this for 20 plus years. She's helped companies grow internationally, and her skills, her language skills, data science, and AI have all helped her translate human behavior into actionable, scalable growth strategies. But Veruska's got another superpower. In a world where we are increasingly being told to be visible online and build a digital brand, and I admit I'm sometimes the one who's doing the telling, Veruska's got another way. Because let's face it, not everybody wants to do it that way. She has managed to build her business without focusing on building a digital personal brand, and she's going to talk us through just how she did it. Before we get into the episode, a reminder that if you are enjoying what Sarah and I are doing with this podcast, there are various ways that you can support us. Now, one of them is by donating via the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the show notes. But let me give you a little bit of insight on what we do with those funds. We do not go off and buy coffees. I don't even really like coffee. What we do is that we use that to invest into the podcast, to pay for the services that, the tech, all of the other stuff that is what takes creating a podcast. So it really does go, your donation really goes to the longevity of this podcast. So we would really appreciate any help that you can give via that. The other way you can support us is by sharing this podcast far and wide. We want to, the mission that we have is to help people thrive in their careers and their well-being. And the more people that gain access to these episodes would make us happier, hopefully make their lives better. So it's a win-win all around. Now, settle down. I would suggest get a piece of paper and pen, because Veruska shares a lot of tips, and listen to the episode. Hello, Veruska, and welcome to the SEO Mindset podcast.
Hello. Thanks for having me, Tazmin.
Oh, no, I'm really happy. And, Veruska and I, we've had some online conversations and we've spoken for the first time today. And I feel like I've known her forever. We share so many of the same stories and same ideas. So I'm really looking forward to having this conversation with you, and just want to introduce a topic for our listeners. Today, we're going to talk about the problem with this message that we're hearing online, that you need to be constantly visible, need to build that digital brand. And there's such a lot of pressure, such a lot of, information, content telling people in the digital world, the SEO world, be visible, be visible, be visible. And you're here, Veruska, to tell us that there is another way, right?
Yes, there is another way. Or at least I found another way, then, that may work for others as well.
Yeah, no, and I think just you saying that is going to make so many of the listeners feel good, because it makes me feel good as well. Because have you noticed that lately there's even more push now to have that digital presence?
Yes, it's pretty much everywhere. At least wherever I see, whenever everything that I read, everything that I listen, it's build a brand, be there, there for your users, be there for companies. And I think it's because we are at this weird and strange, exciting as well change of times where there are a lot of new things that are happening at the same time, and our industry is changing so much. Or there's a narrative saying us that is changing. So people wants to be wants to be more visible, to own a piece of this narrative. But yes, it's definitely everywhere, way more than a few years ago. I think it started with the pandemic. With It's somehow had its own place because we were living a crazy time, so we all needed to be much more connected and much more visible. And then it's shifting into this new work paradigm where you have to be there to be able to say something about what's happening. Otherwise, you are kind of an outsider, or people may perceive you as an outsider.
Yeah. Me personally, I mean, people don't believe this about me, but I grew up very shy. When I was, up to the age of, I would say, 18, I would go to school, go to college. I wouldn't talk to anyone, do my work, come back home. I was very, I lacked the confidence. I didn't feel that I had anything to say. And over the years, that has now flipped. And now actually, I enjoy having a presence. I enjoy having a platform to speak in. But I know when I started the coaching business, to be honest, I just wanted to be a coach. But the reality is being a coach is very different from having a coaching business. You have to be a different person to build the business. You have to be visible. You have to show who you are, and that took some getting used to. I won't lie, it was difficult. I'm okay with it now. So I would imagine there are so many people out there who are either building their careers or pivoting into a different business and hearing this narrative of be present, be visible. And it's difficult, right? You're already going through so much change.
It is very difficult. I'm still very shy. I'm still someone who likes around space and having like a familiar place where I can totally be myself. And like me, there are tons of other people, and I feel that the the older you grow, the less these things have an impact on you. The less these push up, pushing things, hearing the same things, kind of affect you less. But for younger people, starting out, shifting, trying to find their place in this world, it can be very difficult because you are forced constantly to prove yourself, to prove that you have a social value, that you have a social proof, and you are not required anymore to have a solid experience or to prove that you are building experience. You are required to prove that you can talk about yourself, and that's super overwhelming, and it's a skill in itself.
Self advocacy is something that many people really struggle with, really, really. And I agree that the youngsters these days, I feel for them because the world is more complicated than it was when I was growing up. Technology has its own pressures. And before we started recording, Veruska and I were talking about the importance of age diversity, and the challenges of those in the younger years and also in the older years. And definitely want to get you back on the podcast to do a whole episode about that.
Oh, there's a lot to say about that, unfortunately, but yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Right. So I'm intrigued. Your story. Tell me. I mean, when I look at your website, when I looked at your LinkedIn profile, there is so much you have done, and it spanned a good chunk of time. So you tell us, like, how did that even happen without this need for visibility?
So for me, it all started kind of without any plan. So I was at the beginning, I was at the right place in the right moment, and I had the right skill. So I was still at the university. I was looking for a job to support myself, and I had, and still have a good skill that is speaking multiple languages. And I was pretty much my goal was to work in journalism. But coming from Italy, I knew already, and I was pushed not to pursue this because There was no job, there was no money opportunity, you need a lot of connection. It's kind of a very, very, very still difficult place. So I landed this job for this big company, and I was younger and I didn't know that they were so big. This big publisher, they were starting, they had a website running, and they wanted someone who somehow was fresh, and at that time no one had experience in this, that was able to kind of move fast, deliver, work with people from multiple countries, work with people from multiple teams, and deliver content. So that's how I started managing people, creating content, defining what content to create, and how to basically, and this leads to something that I totally didn't understand at the time. So much traffic, so much visibility for this website, it became like a case history, and that's where everything started. From there, I also opened my own thing in Italy online, to experiment, because at that stage I became super interested in saying, okay, what's happening here? How can I improve this thing? How can I become better? But that experience led me to be in touch indirectly with a lot of people. People seeing my works, people recommending me for what I was doing, and this recommendation started to not to go uh, linear, not to be linear. They started to become extremely spread out, and I moved from Italy and managing southern countries to pretty much everywhere. So, and recommendations started to come, and I found my place in a very different SEO field, which is not proper SEO field, because I work between SEO and localization. So I do internationalization, and that's pretty much how everything started and how everything is going. So the biggest support group for me is not be myself being out there, because I never wanted, and still today, when I'm really selective on what where I go and how I approach things. It came from building experience and proving that having a solid case histories, not just hey, I know how to do this. No, I know how to do this, and there are people that can vouch for me, and they can vouch because they have worked with me, not because they have seen me sharing thousands of articles or thousands of posts on LinkedIn.
So, it really feels like it was in the true sense of organic growth for you. You were hired for the skills and your attitude as well. It sounds as if it was the attitude, it was the work ethic, it was the your character as well as the skills that you had. And then you were able to deliver that really great project. And then the curiosity. So, what I love about what you've just said, there's depth in each part of it. You did a job, you did it well, you were curious on how to do it better. You had that case study as almost like an asset. That case study became an asset for you, and that asset then built that network. And the other thing I loved what you said was you didn't go for a very linear network, you went for a broad, or it happened to be broad. And I think sometimes we're guilty of staying in the same space rather than thinking, okay, there is another space for me that I can also. So that was the beginning. Um, And what I'm curious about, so you've worked with some really great brands. Like, would you like to tell us a few of the brands that you've worked with?
Yeah, I have worked with Booking.com, Amazon, Canva, Atlassian, the likes of Samsung. I led a big project. Yeah, I have big names on my portfolio, and of course, when you start having those big names, things kind of get easy. But and that's, I think, it's a kind of a catch, but also like a caveat to this. You need to prove that you have done something for them. It's not just like putting, because everyone can put it out. Hey. I work for brand X, X, XZ, and that's it. And people are like, whoa, wow, you have to have a case history of what you've done. You have to have proof that you don't have to share, but you have to share with the right people.
No.
I have a process that when a lead come, and usually they come organically or via recommendation, and if they ask proof, here are my things that I have, and here are my references that you can get in touch with if you need. So it's the big names that you see there sometimes are just like a mirror for people to just say, I've done this, and perhaps they have never done anything or they have done something very small. So you have to go beyond that to prove that you're actually work there, you have experience in what you are in what you have done, you have results, sometimes not necessarily good results, but things that you have done. And I think that's the so I have big names, but it's complemented with the fact that I've done things actually for these names.
So the focus, the place where you're spending your energy isn't about being present online, posting, saying, I did this, I did this. It's spending that time and energy on doing the work, doing it well. Even if the result is not the one that you wanted it, you're still documenting that this is what I did, this is how I did it. And I like what you said. You don't have to share it with everybody, you have to share it with the right people. And all of this, there's a big emphasis on networking in the real authentic sense of networking, building connections, building relationships. People skills is something that a lot of people struggle with, and it's almost like it's easy to make a connection online because you just have to say, right, connect. But actually building a relationship with somebody is a very different ballgame.
Yes. And that's also, I think, the network that you choose to build has to be intentional, not opportunistic, but intentional. And I know that it sounds very kind of snobbish, but that's the thing. That's what's working with me in such a noisy space. I found that having a network that I built and that is connected with me, not just because we do the same things, but we do different things, is what's helping me a lot. Like I people tend to network with people in the same line of work or with people in the same communities, which is okay, which works for someone, it doesn't work for someone else. I love to network with people that have completely different skill set. My biggest network is with developers, is with people that do data science because I am a data scientist as well. Um, so I love to be in touch with people that are way more that do something else, but that can help me and that I can help you understand certain things. Because when we are stuck in the same group of people, it kind of when you start using an LLMS, I always use this analogy because it's something that I've been working with a long time with AI, so it's not something new for me. You use an LLM that is already biased. The more you train with your behavior, the more it becomes biased about yourself and about what you expect they to say. And it's the same with a network that is made of people coming from your same line of work, your same experience, sometimes your same country or close countries. For me, would be really, really good to only have people speaking Italian or Spanish or Portuguese because culturally we are very much close. But then you don't. You, for me, you don't reach that level of growth professionally, but mostly personally, that allows you to kind of overcome the fear of what's happening around you or what can happen around you.
It is so interesting because it's very comforting and easy to be with people who are like you culturally or language or roles, but there's a limit to how much you're going to get from that because you know it's like you said, it's not intentionally biased, but it is that pool that you're in is the same. It's your pool, but going outside that. And as you was thinking, I was thinking, oh, who should I be networking with more to learn more? That's a really, really good one. So, you talked about this intentional building of your network, and the brands that you've worked with. Would you say that that is what helped you build such an impressive client portfolio without having that prominent public presence?
I think it's a matter of it sounds a little bit braggy, but excuse me if it does. I think it's a little bit of building the having the right skills, proving, and then having people vouching for you. Because to be honest, my clients, I've been a consultant and freelancer my whole career, come from other people who have worked with me or are working with me.
Yeah,
So I think and you know how big companies work. We think that every big company is super structured, that they have processes in place. But the truth is that the more the company is bigger, the smallest the smallest teams have difficulties in finding the right people, so they look outside of their small world. So if a big company has to do a specific project, they don't go through the hiring process. So they need someone that is extremely specialized, and they go outside, and that's where the having people recommending me is super super helpful. And of course, now if I go someone and I say this is the brand that I work with, or I work with this, the case history, results, positive, negative, whatever the processes, whatever I've been doing, do your things, it's easier. But the key for me is having that kind of process in your mind that allows you to really show your value
yeah.
to the people that count, and being able to to help them recommending you in some way, or make them feel good at recommending you, because at the end of the day it's like networking. You recommend someone you've been comfortable with, and of course it's never not all positive. I also have experience with clients not being aligned with me, or me not being aligned with them, but the ones that I've been and I am aligned are the ones that have this comforting thing of recommending me to others, and I do for other people as well.
It's a great story where there is although you're sharing this story, there are lots of tips and strategies and recommendations that are coming through it. We are so rapidly running out of time, so we're going to take a short break right now. But when we come back, what would be great is if we can translate your experiences and your any tips that you have, strategies, recommendations on how listeners of this podcast can think, you know what, I want to start implementing some of this intentional networking, or you talked about how to collate your knowledge, collect your case studies, and how they can start building their career without that constant need to be present. So let's take a short break, and we'll come back with all of the tips and strategies. Hello, Veruska. Thank you for this great topic, and welcome to everyone who's returning from the break. Before the break, we talked about this constant pressure to be visible, and how you have found another way of doing it. One of the things that really interests me about your work, you advocate a lot for underrepresented groups in tech, be it women in tech, be it um, youngsters, all sorts. How do you think the industry focus on visibility affects professionals from this group?
A lot, a lot, and I'm seeing a lot of. I do mentor a lot of women over 40 that somehow have to manage new workflow, or have to find a new space, or have to kind of rethink what they're doing. And the way I see it, and happens also to the youngster, is that they tend not to share. So they want to share, but they are blocked by the fear, not of exposing them too much, but to compete with super famous
Mhm.
people or people that are always there. So they feel like this imposter syndrome, which also translates to the way they apply to jobs, to the way they engage with other people, to the way they approach their work. It's a constant reminder that if you're starting now, or if you are in the middle of a change, or you want to start now building your brand, you have to consider who is there already. And that's why we also see so many sensational posts from newcomers. They need to find that differentiation, that sometimes it's just a facade, it's not real, but there is a real struggle, because it's like always hearing the same narrative brings you to think, oh, what if I don't have another point
Mhm.
of view? Or what if I want to have another one and I have to develop something so sensational and prove it, that it becomes a second job? And for many, actually, having a brand visibility, brand presence, it's becoming a big job, more than a proper job. And the underrepresented communities and young people, I think, are the ones that are affected the most. And it's not because it's my group age, but I believe that people over 40 today struggles a lot with this, because they have to face a lot of changes, a lot of ageism. At the same time, they need to rethink of what they've done and what they want to do. So it has deeper effects than what we think.
And
It's just like hearing the same politics over and
and then
over.
there's also the fear that if I put something out there, then it's out there. I can never bring it back again, and um one of the things that before I post anything, I ask myself, if my children read this, would they be embarrassed or would they be okay with it? Because it's there then, and the last thing I would want to do is hurt anyone's feelings or anything like that, because you talk about life and all sorts. So we said before the break that this half would be about the solutions, and you've highlighted that for people who are beginning their career, for people who might be at a later stage and transitioning, for those professionals who feel overshadowed by a lack of online visibility, feel that they know that they're being told to build one, but they either don't want to, or they don't know how to, or they feel stuck, but they do want to grow their career. What advice would you give them so that they can be recognized and valued for the contributions that they're making?
I I say something that it's very, very, very specific, and it's to build your own specific skills. Have a specific skill set that make you someone that people needs. There are a lot of SEOs, there are a lot of people doing project management, a lot of people doing product management in SEO, but there's always a lack of people specialized in something specific. Or there's always a way to specialize in something specific. That's something that really worked for me as well. Having a strong, strong focus on something and being someone that can bring this kind of value. So for me, having niching down is key. Is key to build a career that is sustainable, that doesn't require you to be overly present, that gives you some sort of an advantage, but also not just in the workplace, also for yourself, to be at a pace with yourself that you have something different to offer. And the moment you're starting to offer something different, of course, there's a little bit of luck and a little bit of expertise, and being the right place in the right time. Things start coming one after another. But the key is to having something different or something unique to offer.
I agree with you. I do wonder though, if somebody is starting in their career and suddenly they're going from their university into the big world, whether it's a big organization or a big online organization, and you feel like you've got to know everything, right? You suddenly you realize how much you don't know when you start working. And at that point, to say, okay, I'm going to niche in this area, it sounds really scary, for number one. And even if you want to do it, how do you even begin? And what? Like, what do you niche down in? Like, have you got any guidance?
Yeah, I wrote an article, I think last year about this, specifically about this. It is scary, but the way it works, and I see so many people doing this, not just in SEO, in different industry. You start with a broad skill set because everyone has started with this. The more you work, the more you understand, oh, well, I like this very much. Or, well, I don't want to do this thing at all. So my goal in life is not to do, I don't know, content creation anymore. I want to become a super expert in dealing with technical SEO. Perfect. So you keep working on what you are doing, so the broader scale, but you start building skills on the specific things that you want to specialize. It also means sacrifice time or sacrifice something else. It's part of the game. And within that specialization, you may even find that you like something even more specific. I know people who fall in love with technical SEO, then fall in love with coding, and they are now developers. So you need to be extremely, again, I use this word very often, intentional. You can be as broader as possible, but within that broad skill set, if you can find something that really you really like, you should pursue that slowly. It doesn't have to happen tomorrow, starting today. It takes time, but over time you build the skills. And if you are in a workplace and you put yourself out for doing things that people don't expect you to do, it's a first step, and works for young people, but also works for people who wants to kind of reshape their career a little bit. It requires a bit of flexibility, of course, again, time and a precise intention. I want to become
You know,
this.
as you're speaking, two things that are ringing true to me is in order to do that, you have to first stop, sit down, and reflect. Do I like this? Do I like that? Do I want to spend more time here? Do I want to spend more time there? And that's something that time and time again I see people that's not built into the way they live. But with that comes this awareness, or actually, I'm really good at writing, or actually, I'm really good at organizing. And people think these are just random things, but these are your nuggets of gold that are going to lead you to the career that's really aligned with you. So I hear and I you know I do still think it's a scary place for the especially the younger ones to be. But I urge anyone listening, if you are thinking actually I do want to become more specialized in something, I want to build a career around my skills and my um, what's the word I'm looking for? My my areas of interest, sit down and work out what is that for you. In the show notes I'm going to put the link to the ikigai video that we created, which gives you a template to work some of these things out. So so that's one, get super niche in what you're doing. Do you have any other um, tips for the people listening?
Yes, build with people that can help you grow, and build a network, sorry, with people that can help you grow. And that doesn't mean you have to go to people and try to steal their expertise or their playbook. And that's something that I'm very, very vocal about this. I've had people trying to come to me to get mentorship just to kind of become a copycat of me. And of course, it didn't work. You need to build a network of people that can really help you overcome not just your working problems, but also your fears. And that's why I keep saying go outside your close circle. For example, do you want to become a technical SEO? Perfect. To become a technical SEO, you can have your SEO network, but you also need to understand how a developer mindset works. So you need to understand what's their pain point, how to you can relate to them, and having people that you can connect genuinely, not just telling them, "Hey, teach me this." No, it's more like, "Hey, I want really to understand how I can be better at this and how I can become more skilled at this, and also how I overcome the fear, for example, of touching the HTML of a website." So it's building strong connections that brings you something, and that where you can bring something, regardless of your age, your experience. And it's just like sometimes people think, how do I reach out to these people? I hate cold calls, and I hate them too. But there are ways, there are communities, there are engagement on places. Sometimes you see someone mentioning someone else. I have a lot of people coming to me because someone mentioned me in on LinkedIn or somewhere else, close community or in conversation in companies, and they just say, "Hey, I don't do this thing that you do, but I'm trying to understand how it fits into my skills, into what I've been doing. Can we have a chat?" And that's where everything starts. So build a connection where you don't want just to
Yeah.
steal, where you want to
Again,
really
it's
grow.
that intentional networking, which I love that phrase. Another thing which I think might be helpful, and you touched on it earlier, document your work, document your processes, document the journey that you went through on that case study, because one, it shows it, you can show it to somebody else. I did this thing. But one of the things I tell my clients is it also shows you what you can do. It updates your internal CV, your internal portfolio. Because when we begin, and say we begin a career here, and we need to go here, we've got that imposter syndrome. But if you're constantly updating your internal CV, you are feeling less and less of an imposter and more that I am allowed to have this space. This is my space in the industry. And I think um, anybody out there who is growing their career, who is passionate about their career, and you must be, that's why you're listening to this podcast, document your working weeks every week. What did you learn? What did you struggle with? What did you really love about the work you did? What is it that you never want to do again? Um, and that's your like golden nuggets along the path of your journey. I feel like we've covered quite a lot. Have you got any final tips for anyone?
Final tips. That's very, they are the part, to be honest, because I know all these talk can be very, very hard to digest and just say, okay, this is not for everyone, but I recommend everyone's trying to move away from what you read constantly if it doesn't resonate with you. If it does, perfect, fine, we are all different. But if you feel like you have to do something because everyone is doing that something, it's not sustainable. It's something that on the long term you will hate. So assess if that's what you really want. And even if it's scary, it's kind of becoming start a mindful practice to understand better what you want and where you want to go. And it's scary, but the scariness is good. It kind of fuels our life a little bit. So yeah, my tips is try to find that good spot where you feel comfortable, regardless of what the others are doing, and don't compare what others are doing because we are different, come from different experience,
Totally
and
agree. I love
want different things as well.
that last bit. It's finding your way. Constant, consume less, reflect more, figure out who you are, what works for you, what's aligned with you, and then the pressure reduces just by doing that. I feel like we could have gone on, but we are rapidly coming to the end of our time together. I've had such great fun talking to you, honestly, and I definitely would love for you to come back onto the podcast. We wrap up our sessions with 3 questions for our guests. So the first one is, what would you like our listeners to main takeaway from this episode to be?
To find your space and your voice. That doesn't have to be the same as the others. And again, it's scary, but it's doable. So it takes some time, but it kind of liberates you. It's kind of having a liberation note for you, a playbook for yourself where you play with yourself. So yeah, find yourself, your voice, and it doesn't have to be vocal about what your voice is.
Yeah,
Be vocal
brilliant.
with
Love that.
yourself and your peers.
What is the best career advice you've ever received?
The I got one that really kind of shapes what I believed and what I became, and
Hmm.
it's try things out. You are not, and that's something that I put everywhere I can. You are not saving lives, so you are not. You don't have to constantly fear about what happens. Try things, and trying things is the best way to kind of overcome fear or having more fear, and that leads to
Yeah,
something
so
good.
most of us are not in the profession of saving lives, as you said. So what's the worst that can happen? The website will go down, and I've made some very silly mistakes. But I had a great manager. I remember
Exactly.
once I made this terrible mistake, and I was mortified. And the coding team and so many teams had to fix it. It took them all day. But she just said to me, "No one died, and you'll never do that again." So there's nothing like making a mistake to really learn. So yeah, I totally agree with
Exactly.
that. And who is out there doing some really great work that you think we should be following? Someone that inspires you?
I don't recommend people to follow because, and that's part of my intentionality, not because
Yeah.
I don't want to give out secrets, but because the person or the people that I would
Uh-huh.
recommend, I am biased towards them. So I tend not to recommend people on this kind of things.
No?
And I'm really sorry about that. Everyone can reach out to me if they need any advice on people. Please do it. People do all
Okay.
the time, and I try to connect the dot. But yeah, when it's too broad, I prefer not to because I would be super biased. And what I see when I see a good person and I feel it's an amazing person who is doing great things, someone else may say, no, this person put me under pressure. This person doesn't relate to me. So it's like this, again, trying to be
That's
balanced
absolutely
and be
fine, and you have done
mindful.
it in your way, yet again. So we've never had that answer before, but it's always, it's a refreshing, different take on that question. So thank you. Veruska, thank you so much. Just before we wrap up,
Thanks you.
a little message to everyone listening that if you're enjoying what Sarah and I are doing with the podcast and you'd like to support us, there's multitude ways. A couple of them are you could donate a donation via the Buy Me a Coffee link, which is in the show notes. And another way is to share this episode or any episode that you're enjoying far and wide, because although we are the SEO Mindset podcast, the topics we cover are relevant to so many people, um, regardless of the field they're in. So if you think it's going to help someone, please share. Be good for them, be good for us. And Veruska, that just leaves me to say goodbye to you. Thank you ever so much for everything that you've shared with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was my pleasure. Really enjoyed it. And thanks to everyone who will be listening or is listening.
Excellent. And yes, absolutely. It's a, goodbye from me and thank you again for listening to another episode of our podcast. Until next time.